In this video, we're going to continue to talk about two-way lookups, although we're going to use the XLOOKUP function. And what we'll do is put one XLOOKUP function inside of another. So this is a replacement for index match, or at least another way to do that. Before we start, let's just review doing XLOOKUPs with a one-way lookup. You've already been doing that throughout the quarter. In this example, same set of data we've looked at with the index match. We're entering somebody's last name, and then we want to return their location. So I only need to look up their last name, and we know we want to return the location. So here's what the formula looks like. What am I looking up? H2, the guy's name. Where am I looking for that? This is the red box, where all the names reside. And then what am I going to return? Well, we give it an entire array of information. And just like index match, we're returning the intersection of this row and that column. So it's going to return New Orleans. So let's go ahead and type that here. Let me zoom in a little bit. That's probably good. Equal XLOOKUP. And we're going to look up this guy's name, comma. Oh, I'm off by one. It should be H3. I'm going to look through this red box where all the names exist. And what am I going to return? Something out of this green box. And so we're going to be after the intersection of the row where we found the name and the column that we asked for. So that returns New Orleans for this gentleman. If I change the name to the very first guy, Hovey, then it, of course, returns Austin. One-way lookup, we've been using that quite a while. So now, how can we use XLOOKUP as a two-way lookup? So going back to this example, I want to return or have your user enter last name, and then they're going to enter the column where they want to return information. So let's clear this out and do a demonstration. Now in this case, normally for this third parameter, it's the column that I want to return, so location, right? But in this two-way lookup, we don't know which column we want to return until the user makes a selection. So I can't hard code, if you will, this location column because the user might choose something different, like last name or sex or locker number. So let's go ahead and leave it location. So what we're going to do is have an XLOOKUP that returns an array from a column that the user selects. Here's what that looks like. I'm going to look up the column that the user wants to return. And where do I look for that? Across all of these columns. So this is that purple box, A6 to G10. And what am I going to return? Well, we put the entire array of data. And so again, this will be an intersection of this column and this entire array. And look what it does. This is what we call a spill array. It returns all of these locations. And it is this array that's going to go into our outer XLOOKUP. What's interesting, watch this. I will switch this to locker number. Boom. Here is an array of locker numbers. If I switch this to IDs, here is an array of IDs. Obviously, if I switch it to last name, I get an array of last names. So you get the idea is this inner XLOOKUP, this one right here in green, is basically saying, hey, which column did they select? Look for it in the group of columns, right, A10 to G10, and then intersect that with all of the data that we want to return, so A11 to G23. So now what I can do is go use my outer XLOOKUP. What name did they return? So basically, I want to go, what row am I returning to intersect with this column? So the name they selected is that one. Where do I look for that name? In this red box right here. And now, what array do I want to return? Now, ultimately, I'm going to type this XLOOKUP right here. But for now, I'm going to point to this cell. Now, I11 is just Austin, right? No, I want this whole array, and we haven't seen this before, but if you put a hashtag after that cell reference, it's going to grab the whole array, no matter how big it is. So here's what we have. We're going to take I4, the name. We are going to look for it amongst all the names. And when I find that row, I want to intersect it with this purple column. So in this case, it's going to return Nashville. So Nashville is where Lambrooks is. I can run over here and switch the name to Stolt. Oh, and so Stolt is right here. So now we're returning New Orleans out of this array. Of course, if I switch this to locker number 22, so my array became locker numbers, and we're at 22. Now, normally, rather than pointing to this, what we would do is, rather than this I11 hashtag, is we would put our other XLOOKUP in here. We're looking up which column the user selected. The lookup array is right there. And then the return array for this inner XLOOKUP is all of the data. So I put that information. We make sure we have both XLOOKUPs closed. So we have our orange parentheses and our red parentheses. So we're good. So now I hit OK. And we're getting locker 22 for Stolt. If I want to know the sex, I can click here and we'll get the M. If I want to know his ID, I get 1030. And then, of course, I could change the name to Hovey and we'll get the 1024. So that's what that looks like. Let's try one more example. I'll hit escape. Same one. I want to look up the person's name, and what we're trying to return is the sales amount. This is our data that we're trying to return. And of course, it's going to be some intersection between name and region, right? And so that would be the number for those two values. So again, our inner XLOOKUP, let's just put it, let's stick it over here, equal XLOOKUP. And the fact is, I want to see what region did this guy enter. Comma, what's my lookup array? Well, across all of these regions, right? And then what's my return array? It's all of this data right there. So this is all of that central data as an array. Of course, if somebody were to choose East, then I'm going to get this data as an array. Now I want another XLOOKUP to intersect the name, the row of the name with this array. So right here I can go equal, well, I'll do it over in the cell where we ultimately do it, equal XLOOKUP. I'm going to look up the name. What's the array? Well, right here is where all the names are. What is the return array? Well, it's going to change depending on what the user selected. Right now I have that over here. I have to use this hashtag symbol to grab the whole array. And now I hit enter. So Lambert's East 3036. That looks good. If I were to choose Stolt for the East, I get 7069. Now rather than having this array, what you can do is click on this cell and just grab that. Control copy, hit escape, and then right here we can paste that in. Control paste. So that's my inner XLOOKUP that says, hey, which region are we looking for? B4. Where do we look for it? The column headings, East, West, South, Central. And then what do I return? All of this data, because remember it's an intersection. It's going to be an intersection of this case East and this big red box. So the big red box, and basically I can't select it or I'll ruin my formula. I'll hit enter. So basically this big red box is being intersected with this box, and that's what it returns, is all of that array. And then it's this outer one where we look up the name Stolt. So that's going to, hit escape, return this with our intersection of this, and we get the 7069. So that's using XLOOKUP to do a nested XLOOKUP to do a two-way lookup in Excel.